What's a cool fact about dinosaurs you know? Recently Spinosaurus was discovered to have a tadpole-like tail. It has been known for a while that it was mostly an aquatic animal. Even Jurassic Park 3 showed that, but it was always depicted with the standard lizard-like dinosaur tail. Recently new fossils have emerged that show that the creature had a tail like that of a tadpole, suggesting that it spent much more time in water than previously thought. Scientists have studied the nasal and throat structure of the Tyrannosaurus rex, and as it turns out it was completely incapable of vocalizing a roar like those seen in movies. Rather they would have made deep growling noises similar to alligators. Honestly I think that's more terrifying than a roar, cause if you were able to hear the low growling, it would be too late to run. Raptors could not walk around with its hands hanging palm down like most toys and movies show. Their bone structure would not allow it. They had to keep their palms facing each other. Cartoonist Gary Larson named a dinosaur part in one of his strips. A caveman scientist described the spikes on a stegosaurus tail as the thagomizer, named after the late Thagsomans. Real-life paleontologists realized this part had no name, so they started calling it the thagomizer. They were around for longer than they've ever been extinct, which means that there were dinosaur fossils when dinosaurs existed. I imagine it would have been pretty cool if dinosaur archaeologists existed, but I guess, since it would be pretty weird to dig through skeletons of their own kind, maybe a cemetery would be more likely. There was a study done a few years ago where scientists grew chicken embryos that had dinosaur faces around its snout and teeth instead of a beak. They did this by altering gene expression in the developing embryos, so the snouts came out looking more like an alligator-s than a traditional bird-s. Also, birds actually existed at the same time as non-avian dinosaurs. Archaeopteryx was a Jurassic dinosaur, so the evolution of birds began long before velociraptors and T-Rex were walking the earth. Edit for clarification, they may not have been true birds as we know them today, but the avian dinosaurs branched off from non-avian dinosaurs well before the KT extinction event that killed the non-avian dinosaurs, and continued their evolution into what we know as modern birds. Finally, there's a weird bird in the Amazon called the hoatzin, and it's notable because the chicks have 2 claws on their wings. These allow the chicks to climb trees until their wings are strong enough for actual flight. By adulthood the claws disappear. These birds are the last surviving members of a bird line that branched off from other avian species 64 million years ago, just after the non-avian dinosaurs were wiped out. They're basically just really weird dinosaur birds that are very stinky and have gross tasting meat because they have a weird digestive tract. T-Rex was actually really tough. Some skeletons have been found with major injuries that show evidence of years worth of healing. A skeleton named Stan in particular had a hole in his skull, and he may have lived up to a decade after having his skull punctured, if the bone healing is any indication. Just like Sue, one of the largest female T-Rex skeletons we have. One of her femurs is gigantic and misshapen due to an infection. She had a dead, hanging arm due to a torn bicep. Had broken ribs on both sides of her chest, broken at 2 different times, based on research how they healed, and had holes in her jaw due to germs. Her skeleton was difficult to put up because her tail bones were fused together due to arthritis. These animals ran on pure hatred, which undoubtedly fueled their survival drive. However, the severity of T-Rex injuries which they survived hints that they could have lived in pairs or small groups, and they actually cared for each other, ensuring their survival. They were long considered to be solitary hunters that would rather feast on dead carcasses than hunt, but their injuries seem to point to the fact that they were active hunters. 15 years ago a family of 6 tyrannosaurids ranging from juvenile to adult was found in a mass grave, suggesting they died together as a family. The word dinosaur means terrible lizard. Since the coining of the name it has been determined that they are not lizards. The name still fits though, because they make for terrible lizards. Velociraptors are a lot smaller than depicted in movies. An actual velociraptor was more like a turkey with attitude, around the size of a Thanksgiving roaster with feathers, teeth, and claws. There was an ultra-rare skeleton of a dinosaur called Spinosaurus that was the only one of its kind not complete, but only evidence of it, and it got destroyed during WW2 when bombs fell on the museum in Germany. Only recently another intact skeleton has been found in North Africa, which was more complete and gave some clues about where it lived and how it got so big it was bigger than a T-Rex. There is a fossil called the Fighting Dinosaurs that shows a Velociraptor and Protoceratops locked in combat. The Velociraptor has its killing claw thrust in the neck of the Protoceratops, and the Protoceratops has the hand of the Velociraptor clutched in its mouth. It's thought that they died suddenly while in combat due to getting buried in a landslide of sand caused by a rare torrential downpour. Real-life Velociraptors may be small, but they're still metal as heck. Pterosaurs and Dinosaurs, Plesiosaurs and Dinosaurs, and Dimetrodon is not a dinosaur. In fact, Dimetrodon is a synapsid and is more closely related to humans than to dinosaurs. Add to that, synapsids were almost completely extinct by the time dinosaurs appeared. Not at all. When the first dinosaurs appeared in the Triassic, synapsids were still fairly widespread and would continue to be until the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event. The success of the dinosaurs was mainly due to the extinction of the more primitive synapsids that left niches for them to fill. We have not even begun to scratch the surface of how many dinosaurs there actually were. We are finding new species as often as every 2 weeks. I imagine this is not true at the moment with Corona going on right now. I saw a movie at the Field Museum and I believe it said that we have only discovered 2 of all dinosaurs that have ever walked on Earth. This was years ago, so I imagine that number is different now, but it's crazy to think about just how long they were actually living on our planet. 165 million years is a crazy number to wrap your brain around. A quick Google search tells me that over 700 species of dinosaurs have been discovered and named. Compare that to 6399 extant mammal species, 6495 including extinct species. Currently the dominant terrestrial clade, and I think that it's fair to say that we have not scratched the surface of how many dinosaurs there were indeed. Dinosaurs evolved around 230 million years ago and were the dominant terrestrial clade for about 140 million years. Mammals have only held that title for about 66 million years, which means that there have probably been far more dinosaur species in total than there have been mammal species. Considering that over the 140 million years that dinosaurs existed, much changed around the world, and animals had to adapt to constantly changing ecosystems. There may have been tens of thousands of dinosaur species all combined, many of which would not even have lived at the same time. It also makes me wonder about what non-dinosaur animals lived in these ecosystems. Ecosystems contain an incredibly diverse amount of animals right now, and that was most likely true back then too. There are probably so many undiscovered species of interesting mammals, reptiles, amphibians and other animals that lived alongside dinosaurs. We've definitely not scratched the surface yet, and we probably would not for a long time. But new species are being discovered rapidly, and we learn interesting new things every day. There is a dinosaur named Yiki from the limestone deposits in China that has the exact same body plan as a wyvern dragon, complete with bat-like wings, and proves that flight evolved more than once in dinosaurs. Dinosaurs such as T-Rex could produce infrasonic waves you'd basically feel in your spine. Dinosaurs are a diverse group of reptiles of the clade Dinosauria. They first appeared during the Triassic period, between 243 and 233, 23 million years ago. Although the exact origin and timing of the evolution of dinosaurs is the subject of active research, they became the dominant terrestrial vertebrates after the Triassic-Jurassic extinction event 201. 3 million years ago. Their dominance continued through the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods. The fossil record demonstrates that birds are modern feathered dinosaurs, having evolved from earlier theropods during the late Jurassic epoch. As such, birds were the only dinosaur lineage to survive the Cretaceous-Paleogene extinction event approximately 66 million years ago. Dinosaurs can therefore be divided into avian dinosaurs, or birds, and non-avian dinosaurs, which are all dinosaurs other than birds. When the T-Rex attacks the kids in the Jeep, the glass was supposed to break. Instead, the entire pane fell on the kids as a 1,000-pound animatronic pushed it down on them. Their screams of terror in that scene are real. Therizinosaurus was a large, bipedal herbivore that occupied an ecological niche akin to that of the giant ground sloths of the Pleistocene, using its meter-long claws to pull down tree branches. It looked goofy as heck, like an 8-meter-long turkey, especially since it was likely to have had at least some feathery integument. The real kicker, it was a cousin of T-Rex. Yes, that guy, one of the most terrifying carnivores ever to walk the earth, had a vegetarian Edward Scissorhands for a cousin. And yes, it likely used those scythe-like claws for defense, too. T-Rex didn't he have exposed teeth? It had full lip cover. They can be absolutely sure about this because the toothed enamel won't survive constant exposure. Most artists assumed a T-Rex jaw would look like a crocodile jaw, but never considered that the croc's teeth are protected by the water. TLDR, T-Rex would have spent a fortune on lipstick and had a really weird kiss. When you are looking for dinosaur bones, you can tell the difference between a fossil and a rock by touching your tongue to it. If it sticks a bit and kinda sucks back, it is porous and probably bone. Iguanodon, the most abundant dinosaur of them all, lived on 5 continents. T-Rex had a bite force of 6 tons. Stegosaurus would flush blood through its plates, most likely to intimidate predators or attract mates. The leg bones of large sauropods like Argentinosaurus or Seismosaurus could be 20 feet tall and weigh as much as a ton. The only dinosaur I know is my parrot. Cool fact is that he can learn to replicate pretty much any sound he hears, and he only has to hear it once. He is 31 years old, and he once got to my phone, hit the speed dial for the local pizzeria, and tried to order pizza. The T-Rex is closer to us in time than it is to the Stegosaurus that lived over 144 million years ago. We don't actually know how they looked like when they were alive. We just think they look like what they are perceived as. Oh, my time to shine. My username is of an ancient now extinct animal, though not technically a dinosaur. Cubanichosaurus used to be this humongous unicorn pig, like a half-ton boar with a big old horn in the middle of its forehead. Pretty badass if you ask me. Dilophosaurus, the one with the neck fans that pop out and rattles, does not look like it does in Jurassic Park. They're big at 10 feet tall. They do not spit acid venom and do not have neck umbrellas. That's actually part of the plot in the novel. The scientists were surprised by both of those things, or the first ones were cloned, as neither thing showed up in the fossil record. How much of this stuff was intentionally added by the InGen scientists for a wow factor is up for debate. That section of the novel was always one of my favorites, as it always made me wonder what else we assume about fossils when so much of the original animal is missing. Crichton knew there was no evidence of the hoods or venom when he wrote the book, and thought the idea of something so defining to the fictional species being something the fossil record could not indicate was interesting. That they didn't all exist on the earth at the same time. Different species of dinosaurs roamed the planet, spread out over 170 million years. In contrast, the modern human species has only existed for 200,000 years. The number of paleontologists who have stumbled across fossils by accident while on vacation with their families is more than 0. Same goes for toddlers. Tyrannosaurus actually has amazing eyesight. That whole thing about sight is based on movement was, well, not at all the case, and could potentially see 2 football fields down. Not only that, but T-Rex was one of the few large meat eaters that could see in front. Other larger meat eaters like Giganotosaurus or Allosaurus could only see sideways like a bird does. Another one I like, dinosaur hands. The palm cold and T face downwards. So someone like Spinosaurus would have to walk on its knuckles like a gorilla. Something about their wrist not being able to bend that way. In the dinosaur community, when the hands bend that way, we call it Jurassic hands because of Jurassic Park. Finally, my time has come. The T-Rex is closer to the iPhone than to the Stegosaurus. The chicken is considered a close relative of the T-Rex. Contrary to popular belief, most dinosaurs probably weren't just giant lizards, but more like an in-between of bats and giant lizards, and were most likely warm-blooded and feathered. And my most favorite fact of them all, we know all of this: what they ate, what they looked like, even how they had sex, by studying their skeletons and approximating it from modern bad behavior. In 1916, the two best ever specimens of Corythosaurus were in the process of being sent from the US to the UK when the ship carrying them was sunk by a German merchant raider, along with a whole load of other fossils. Those pristine specimens are now thousands of meters down at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. A few dinosaurs' colors are actually known. One in particular, called Cineceropteryx, had a gingerish color across its body, except its tail and face. On its tail it had alternating stripes of white and ginger, and an odd black mask on its face like a raccoon. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing for more videos.